Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. If you're on this journey to financial independence, doesn't matter if you plan to retire early or not, sometimes it could feel like a race to a finish line, where the finish line is having a very binary result. That is, if you run out of money by the end of life, then it is seen as a failure. And if you don't run out of money, then it is seen as a success. I think that's a very oversimplified view of looking at this entire FIRE philosophy of financial independence, retiring early. In reality, it is much more nuanced than that. There could be different types of scenarios of success and scenarios of failure, all depending on your own ambitions and goals. Seema and I, we both have also come up with our own scale of this success and failure, where at one end of the spectrum is what we call the ultimate failure. Then it goes on to a moderate failure. On our scale, it goes to what I would say a good failure or a bad success, and I'll try and explain that. Then it goes to a reasonable success, that you had a reasonably successful end. And then the finally is what I would say the ultimate success. So this is our scale of the different scenarios of success and failure that we are envisioning in our own journey. And I'll try and detail each one of them, what it is, and how do you make sure that you either avoid it or aspire towards it. Hopefully, this will give you some inspiration and ideas towards plotting your own journey. And more importantly, your feedback and your thoughts can help us also improve our own journey to see if we missed out anything or even overestimated or underestimated on our own scale. So let's get started. And I'll start first with the one end of the spectrum, which is the ultimate failure end of the spectrum. This is the universal definition of failure when it comes to the FIRE philosophy, which means that at your end of life, you're less than zero when it comes to money left. Means you've run out of money. And it could be because of multiple reasons. You've chosen a bad withdrawal rate, that you've been withdrawing higher than expected towards your portfolio. It could be that you've had certain emergencies during your lifetime that depleted your portfolio faster. You hit the wrong end of the sequence of return spectrum. Or it could be that your lifestyle made it difficult for you to save money, or at least survive till the end of life, your financial portfolio. This is the main, I would say, failure that we all have to avoid. And how you can avoid it is definitely choosing a conservative withdrawal rate. We've spoken about this in many of the videos. Like I spoke to Dr. Karsten or Big ERN a couple of videos back, where we debated about this 5%. I still believe that in developing countries, if you're planning to retire in India or in one of those emerging economies, you want to make sure that you are choosing a conservative withdrawal rate. So to make sure that you're not putting yourself in that end of the spectrum, you should be anywhere below 3%. That's what we strongly believe in. And more importantly, you have to make sure that you're managing your lifestyle inflation and not letting it cross the overall inflation ambitions that you put in your entire simulations and targets. This is the universal or the ultimate failure scenario in our case, and I think for everybody's case. Now coming to a much more customized scenario, which is what I would say a reasonable failure or a moderate failure scenario. Now this moderate failure scenario means that you could run out of money if you don't do corrective actions. So it could mean that you will have to probably stop adjusting your expenses towards inflation. It could be lifestyle inflation, it could be CPI, consumer price index inflation. It could be that you have to rely on family support or even the government support to make sure that you sustain yourself till your end of life. Because if you don't, then you will run out of money. And when I say government support, I do not mean in your pension. So the pension that you have, that is much more committed guarantees. I mean something more than that, that you're relying on some social benefits from the government. And in certain places, I don't think, like in India, you can expect or rely on government support in such a scenario. It could be probably in family support. So this is what I would say the moderate failure scenario, that you would have to take drastic action to survive till the end of life. And it is a moderate failure because you're not running out of money, but at the same time, you're making cuts in your lifestyle, in your spending, in your overall living well-being, and that too probably at the later end of your life spectrum. So for this, again, the same as the ultimate failure scenario, that you have to make sure that you are using a conservative withdrawal rate, you are having a 24-month emergency fund, you've got your bucket strategy in place. So you're doing all those things and ticks in the boxes to make sure that you do not end up in that scenario, so that at least you have some expectation. And from a social perspective, I think it is also you have to make sure that you do have certain family connections. You keep that alive so that in case something happens, not just because of selfish need, but also social need, there is a family support till the end of life. Now, the third one, which I would say is our good failure, or what we also call a bad success scenario, that's a very extreme scenario, at least in our case. And that is that you end up by your end of life with more money than you started with, or more money that you imagined that you could end up with. And this can be a very likelihood scenario, actually, where it could be a good failure or a bad success depending on how you would view it. We would definitely see it as a failure or a bad success. And it could be because either you choose to work till late 60s, mid 70s, or even late 70s, and you continue amassing the wealth. It could be because you've not been able to experience life, or you've not experienced life, and you've just been focused on collecting money. It could be because you've chosen such a low withdrawal rate that withdrawal rate means that mathematically there is no other option, but the money keeps growing more and more and more. So in summary, in this scenario, what you end up doing is you end up winning the money game, but you end up losing the life game. That means that you probably do not gain all those life experiences and enjoy your money as much as you should have, and you end up with much more money. At least that's what our strong belief, and that's why we call it as a failure or a bad success scenario. Then coming to the next one, which is what I would say a reasonably good success scenario. Now, this is a scenario that you've lived your life fully, you've done all those experiences that you wanted to, you've retired at the age where you've maximized your go-go years, you've maximized your slow-go years, and you've also maximized your no-go years. So you've done all those ticks in the boxes when it comes to all your aspirations, goals, bucket strategies, bucket list, etc. And by the end of life, you are still left with some money. And some money means that it is just about enough to take care of you, or just even leave something behind. And you also probably in this one adjusted to inflation. So this is a reasonably good place to be in, where you've enjoyed life, etc. And that is what all of us aspire to and promise ourselves, that this is what we want to do in life. Now, the last one is, in our case, what we call the ultimate success, is that not only have you enjoyed life, not only have you experienced all the things that you wanted to do, not only have you retired early enough to do those experiences, something like what we've chosen to do, but you've also enjoyed giving to the others, that you've also contributed to your family, you've contributed to the society, you've built those bonds with family and friends by spending time with them, by also making sure that they are standing on their 2 feet. And by your end of life, you've left a legacy behind for your children, for your family, and potentially a legacy behind for even the society, in form of some charitable initiatives that you've done. So that means that it's not just been a fulfilling life for you, but it is also that you've given some meaning to your family, but also to the society. So this is, I would say, is the ultimate success. Now, the big challenge in this entire scale is how do you make sure that you are choosing the right withdrawal strategy, choosing that right age at which you want to retire and experience all this, and also at the same time choosing what you want to leave behind as a legacy. Now, it could be that in each individual case, the definition of success or failure could be different. So, for example, what we call it as a bad success or a good failure, which is in middle of our scale, some people may call it as the ultimate success, that they leave more money behind. And there is nothing wrong with that if that is what your desire is. But make sure that like in our scenario, what we call as an ultimate success, that you've lived your life. So if, as long as you are living your life and you're enhancing and enriching while you're alive the lives of others around you, then definitely I would say is the ultimate success. But if you're not living your life, if you're working till your late 60s or even your early 70s and just collecting that money, and by your end of life you don't know what to do it, then probably we would say it's a bad success to be in. So choose wisely where you think you should fall on this particular scale, and choose wisely when it comes to the withdrawal rate also. If you choose too conservative a withdrawal rate, means you're denying yourself the pleasure of enjoying that money right now. What we keep saying is that anywhere below 3%, above 2%, that's a withdrawal rate that will put you definitely, mathematically at least, in that reasonable success to an ultimate success scenario. But it also depends that if in 2%, to choose that 2%, if you have to work till your 70s and you end up in that box of what we call as a bad success, that you will end up amassing a lot of money, but you will not have enough time to spend it, then it is better to choose a little bit of a higher withdrawal rate, even if it means that you're leaving less money behind and you are in that moderate success or reasonable success box, rather than the ultimate success of leaving so much for the society as well as family and friends, etc. So this is how I would view, or we would view, our scale from ultimate failure to ultimate success. Would love to hear your thoughts, what you think could be the other forms of success and failure on this particular scale, what we should also consider on this particular scale, and hopefully based on your feedback we can also tweak in this entire approach.